Hello everyone, welcome back to CSE Core Concepts in my yet new video on Principal Component Analysis in my Machine Learning series. Now, in my earlier videos, we have discussed about a feature selection technique, and most prominently, we have discussed about the Boruta algorithm. Now, another way to reduce the number of dimension is the feature extraction method, where the aim is to reduce the number of features by creating new features from existing ones. So, the features which you have, from there we are going to derive some new features. This new reduced set of features will help to summarize all the details or all the informations from the original features. So whatever your original features are, from there we are going to derive some new features. They are not going to be as many numbers as the original features. So the number of dimensions will reduce. At the same time, they will be able to summarize most of the information. So a summarized version can be created by combining the original set. So basically feature selection does what? It does not disturb the original set of features. Rather, it creates a shadow copy and then it decides which one to create or not, or keep or not. Whereas feature extraction will perform what? It is going to create new features derived from the original ones. So some of the more popular algorithms of feature extraction techniques are the principal component analysis, independent component analysis, linear discriminant analysis, then locally linear embedding techniques, and TSNE and autoencoders. Okay. So let us have a look at the principal component analysis. So it is the most used linear dimensionality technique. So it comes under the linear techniques. Okay. So it will overcome the problem of overfitting. So what does overfitting means? When you have too many dimensions, the model gets confused and not all the dimensions are contributing to the performance of the model. So in that case, what happens is that the model gets confused. So that is called as a overfitting. So original data it will be as an input, and from that original data it will find out, try to find some combination of input features which will help to summarize so that the original number of dimensions are reduced. Secondly, it also helps to overcome the multi-collinearity problem. So what do we mean by multi-collinearity problem is that if you are using a multiple linear regression, what is multiple linear regression? When you have more than one independent variables. Okay. So they are which are very highly correlated to each other. So it is called as a multi-collinearity problem. So they are related to each other. This algorithm will help to maximize the variance and minimize the reconstruction error. And it is basically, there is no meaning in applying this algorithm to some binary data, as it will give us meaningless results. So majorly the applications which are using this type of algorithm are in image processing, face recognition, and food analysis techniques. So we will discuss about this. What do we mean by actually multi-collinearity and what do we mean by highly collinear dimensions in my upcoming presentation, in my upcoming slides. Okay. So let us see, for example, there are 100 students in a class and you have different features, like every student have their own grade, their age is different, like they may vary by some months or a year, and the height is different, the weight is different, the hair color is different, and other features like you can say the eye color, the leg size, so many features. Every student will have its own features, right? So let's say, for example, you are storing all these features in the student database. Now, most of the features might not be relevant that describe the student. That means you have to find out the critical features that characterize the student. Do we analyze the student based on the color of the hair? Not at all. Okay, or the weight of the student? No. Right. So the dimensions which are important to, let's say I am doing a classification problem, as I want to assign some electives to the students, right, based on their grades. So in that case, when I am trying to train my model which is going to assign the classes to the students or assign the electives to the students, in that case, how does my leg size or the age or the height matter? That does not matter. So those features are really not at all important. So analysis has to be done on the basis of observations of other students. So every student has a vector of data. That means I am storing so many information about the students. That is the let's say M is the number of dimension. So I am storing the height, weight, hair color, grade, etc. Okay, so let's say 181 centimeter is the height, 68 kgs is the weight, black is the hair color, 99 is its grade or the total marks. Okay, whatever. Now each column in one student has one student vector, okay, that is one row, okay, and so there are number of students is 100. So how many total dimension will have? How many total values will have? There will be 100 students multiplied by the number of the dimensions, right? So each student lies in an m dimensional vector space. Now, from these many set of features, do you think all are required for our classification problem? Not at all. So, which features we are going to ignore? Collinear features or linearly independent features. Let's say, for example, you are storing the leg size and the height. So, it is very obvious that these two features are highly collinear to each other. That means, if the longer the leg size, the height is more. So one of the feature can be derived if you know the other. So if you know the height of the person and its height is, let's say 6 feet tall. So it is very obvious that its leg size will also be bigger, right? Then there will be noisy features that are constant, let's say thickness of the hair. Okay, these features are more or less constant. Or constant features means, let's say the number of teeth. Okay, so more or less everybody will have the same number of teeth, right? Which features you want to keep? Non-collinear features or the features having low covariance. That means you do not need to store the leg size as well as the height. One of them if you store, that is enough to understand what is the height of the student. So non-collinear features like which has a high variance, let's say grade. Okay, so the grade does not decide on the height of the student. So they are non-collinear. Height and the grade of the student is non-collinear. Understood? So let's take the example of this fish. Let's say we want to describe the shape of the fish. There are two variables which describes the shape of the fish. Let's say the height of the fish and the width of the fish. Now, if the height of the fish and the width of the fish both are bigger, it is very obvious that the fish is bigger in size, right? If the height and the width both are smaller, this is very obvious that the size of the fish is very small. But they are not independent of each other. They are dependent. If the height increases, then obviously the width will also increase. Understood? So in fact, they are called as a strong correlation. Their relation between height and width is strongly correlated. So if you are given the height, you can estimate the width and vice versa. Thus, the shape of the fish can be described with a single component. So in this case, instead of storing height plus the width, two features, from these two features, you can derive one third feature which is called as the shape. Okay, so if you say the shape of the fish is bigger one, that obviously means its height is bigger and its width is bigger. So instead of storing two features, you are deriving a third component called as the shape of the fish. But that doesn't mean that you are going to ignore the height or the width. That you have to keep, right? So you can see here, I will explain you this figure. So you have two original variables, that is two independent variables. They are giving completely alternative description, that is different views of the data. See, you have this height component and this is, let's say, the width component. Understood? Just a minute, I will just yeah. So if the width is increasing and the height is increasing, so you can see a bigger fish is there, right? If the width is decreasing and the height is also less, that means they are smaller fishes. So what it is done, the first component, that is the blue line, explains most of the variation in the data. So you have to find out how much is the variation in the data. You can have as small fish as like this and you can have a as big fish as this. Okay, so you have to find out in your data, let's say a student may score 99% also, a student may score 10% also. So you have to find out what is the variation in your data. The range is from 10% to 99%. Understood? So similarly here the variation is that you can have as small fish as this one and you can have as bigger fish as this one, right? The second component, that is the dotted line, is explaining the remaining variation. This is the different variations. Okay, this is a medium type fish, not very big, not very small. This is another fish, okay, which is also other shape. So this dotted line is showing the two, okay, the remaining variation. Both the components are derived from height and width. This component, that is the fish, can be as small as this. How do you derive it? Because its height is small, its width is small. How can you say this fish is so bigger? Because its height is bigger and its width is bigger. So the first component line can be seen as the best fit line that minimizes the information loss. Right. So the first component line, that is showing you the minimum information loss. But if you are keeping this component, this line as the principal component, if you are showing the variation between these two, then this information is also lost, this information is also lost. But if you are keeping this blue line as your principal component, then this size to this size is your variation. So this includes this one and this one also. I hope you understood, right? So working, how does the PCA algorithm work, right? So which is the best fit here? Principal component will be this dark borderline. Okay, it is showing you the maximum variance. This is not covering the maximum variance. So what you have to do here is that it uses the linear algebra to transform features into principal components. So what type of linear algebra it will do to perform this? See, it calculates the eigenvectors, that is eigenvectors and eigenvalues, I hope you know. Okay, so the eigenvectors gives the direction and eigenvalues will give the importance from the covariance matrix. And based on that, PCA will select those which have the highest eigenvalues, that is the highest importance values, and projects them on the data set. So what are the steps we are going to do here is, first of all, you have to standardize your data. So different features may have different units. Now suppose if you have, let's say you may have 2, 3 variables, right? So salary and age. Now age has different unit and scale, right? It is in terms of months, days, years. And salary can be in terms of lakhs, crores and all, right? So the variation between the data is not matching. The unit and scale is not matching. So if you want to compare them fairly, okay, so you have to standardize the data, and standardizing the data means mean of 0 and the standard deviation of 1. Second is, based on that data, you have to calculate the covariance matrix. So what is a covariance matrix? Covariance is a statistical measure that indicates that what the variables change together. To what extent? Okay, these two variables are related. Age and salary, like height and width. Okay, how much they are covariant, okay, of each other. That with change in weight, how much the height is changing. If there is no difference between them, if there is no covariation between the height, will there be any covariance between your height and the grade? May not be. Okay, the extent to that which it changes is very, very less. But the chances of covariations between your height and weight will be very high, right? So covariance matrix, you have to, it is a square matrix that will represent between the multiple random variables. So based on that, you create a matrix. And aim, why do we do is that to understand that how the variables of the input data are varying with from the mean, that how much it is different from the average. Mean means the average in respect to each other, or whether there is any relationship or not. Okay, so if you can see that with change in the height there is no change in the grade. Okay, so that means they are not at all related to each other. Sometimes they are highly correlated. If they are highly correlated, like your leg size and your height, okay, so there is no point in keeping both the dimensions. There is just redundancy, right? So then in that case, you can remove it. The step 3 is that after you create the covariance matrix, you have to perform eigen decomposition, and then you have to identify the principal components. So eigen vector is that the matrix is of type A. A is that your covariance matrix. Okay, X is the eigen vector, and lambda is your eigen value into X. Okay, this has to be done and this has to be solved. So eigenvalues and vectors are always in pairs, so that every eigenvector will have one eigenvalue, right? So their number is equal to the number of dimensions. So if you have three-dimensional data sets, there are three variables, there will be three eigenvalues and three eigenvectors. So eigenvectors of the covariance are actually the directions of the axis. So eigenvector will show you the direction, right? So this direction is the direction of the principal component, this direction. See, this direction wala line. Okay, this is your first principal component, this is your second principal component. So which principal component is showing the higher variance? The first one. So obviously you are going to select the first PC1, right? So eigenvalues are simply, they are the coefficients attached to the eigenvectors which give the amount of variance. Okay, so the direction it is showing, right? And finally is that you have to pick the top directions and transform the data. So PCA ranks eigenvalues and eigenvectors by the amount of information they capture, that how many components they could capture, right? And variance like 95%. So transform the original by projecting in the top components. One more example I will show you. Let's say, for example, if you have a data set, you have two features in the data set, that is the radius and the area, right? So this is the radius which is described and this is the area. So as the area is increasing, the radius is also increasing. So they are correlated to each other. Now, do we need to have two components, radius as well as area? If I just say area, doesn't it mean that it has a high radius? Of course it means. If I say there is radius is more, obviously the area is more. So instead of keeping two features, area and radius, I can derive some principal component. So now how are we going to do? We have two principal components, PC1. Let's say, what does it do? It is going to capture the highest variance. See, these are the data points. These small x points, these are the data points. So principal component 1 is capturing the highest variance from here to here. The range of variance in the data is this. Now principal component 2 is capturing very less variance. The first data is here and the second data is here. Okay, so which is capturing the more variance? Obviously principal component 1. So the spread of data is much wider in PC1 than PC2. That is why PC1 is chosen for the dimensionality reduction. This will be chosen. Okay, so instead of writing area and radius, if I use the principal component 1, then it is enough to understand these two features. So I hope you understood the concept of principal component analysis, and I wish to demonstrate it in RStudio. So please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to CSE Core Concepts. Thank you.